Hey there! I'm borrowing a move from the Terry Gross playbook, and I'm going to be introducing my interview. Today, you're going to get to meet Rebecca Wolfe. We have been friends since middle school, from the days when we were wearing matching rainbow toe socks, putting little braids in our hair with tinfoil at the ends, and doing the middle school announcements on the loudspeaker, introducing ourselves as Tweedledee and Tweedledum. Okay, now you know too much. She reached out this past January and we reconnected as accountability partners. Those weekly phone calls became a welcome opportunity to catch up on life and to share the very similar struggles that we were facing as entrepreneurs, despite the fact that we were in different fields. She was in food and chef service, and I was in education and now the wild, wild interwebs. Rebecca's story is, well, you'll hear for yourself. But she turns a life-changing diagnosis into inspiration for a business plan, and more importantly, an opportunity to change other people's lives. Get ready to learn a ton. Psst, I promise the audio on my end will be better next time. And here we go. My name is Sally, hosting our Haute-preneur series. Haute-preneur is a podcast series of House Scouts, showcasing fearless females who aren't afraid to take risks to achieve greatness. And today, I'm so excited to be here with Rebecca Wolfe, the owner and foodie extraordinaire at Silver Sage. Welcome, Rebecca.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Well, we are so excited to hear and learn more about Silver Sage. So to start, could you tell us what is it and how long have you been around? Tell us a little bit about your journey so far.
All right. So Silver Sage has been around. It started as Rebecca's in the kitchen about a year ago. And I realized pretty quickly that Rebecca couldn't be in the kitchen all the time. So I created Silver Sage so that people would be expecting other people besides just myself. It's basically a meal delivery service as well as personal chef service. And I do catering and workshops to help people eat a lot of nutrient-dense food and create healthy habits for lifestyle change.
Incredible. Tell us, what was the inspiration to create Silver Sage?
The inspiration came from quite a few things. I've always been interested and loved food. Then in 2009, I got bit by a tick and struggled with my health for probably the next 6 years.
For our listeners who aren't familiar, can you give us a quick description of what is Lyme disease?
Oh, yeah. So Lyme disease, you basically get bit by a tick, and then all these spirochete organisms leave the tick and enter your body, and they create all sorts of different symptoms. They can go into your neurological system and create different problems with like muscle tremors and shortness of breath and brain fog and all these different symptoms. Or one of the more common ways is getting into your joints and creating inflammation in there, so people have arthritis type symptoms. For me, it was more the neurological side of having insomnia and just all sorts of weird things coming up. It's just basically these little organisms that get in your body and create a lot of different things, which makes it really hard to diagnose because it mimics things like chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia and all of these really vague symptom describers, not really giving you a diagnosis, but just saying, oh, you have pain. And I worked with quite a few different doctors and finally found a naturopath that changed my diet to all super nutrient-dense whole foods, eating mostly plants and cutting out everything that was causing inflammation in my body. And that just made really tremendous change in my life. And I finally felt good again. I felt like a vital human. I was no longer the 80-year-old woman that had drank too much the day before and had been playing tennis and was just exhausted and achy all the time. I pretty much got my life back and had a lot of energy and then wanted to share that with other people. So it really was wanting to help people create lifestyle change. And my best way to do that really is through food because it is my passion to be in the kitchen creating all sorts of great things. And you get to eat 3 to 6 times a day. So when you're eating, it's reminding yourself that you need to nurture and care for yourself. So to create those habits, having a focal point of food is a pretty amazing way to do that.
It sounds like you've been able to use nutrition to, like you said, really get your life back from that. So can you tell us, how does nutrition connect with that? How might that apply to just any person who wanted to feel better and live a better life?
It's pretty complicated and at the same time really simple. Food is either medicine or it's poison, and no matter what you're putting in your body, if you drink too much water, for example, that creates poison and you can die from that. But at the same time, we need water to live. So we need all of these healthy foods. On a food level, health is nutrient per calorie. So you're trying to get the most nutrients per calorie in your body. But what we're filling our bodies with in our current diet is often a lot of inflammatory foods, which are things like, often for people, it's gluten or dairy, or sugar is a huge one, or all of the food additives, including like dyes and all those unpronounceable things that you find on the labels of most food in grocery stores. So people are bringing home these things that are creating inflammation in their body. So their body's already tired from fighting the food that you're eating, instead of using that food to build your body up to help it fight other things. So it just allows your body to heal, to really cut those things out and increase the nutrients in your diet.
I can tell that you've done a lot of research and work to craft a healthy lifestyle and to know what are the right foods and right balance to put into your body. Can you share with us a little bit about your philosophy? What's your approach to that?
I try to keep it really simple, because when you have too many rules, I like to focus on what you can have, because when you focus on what you can't have, it's really easy to get depressed and not even want to get out of bed in the morning. My mom also had an autoimmune disorder, and her experience was totally different from mine, because when I found out what the parameters were of like eat mostly plants and cut out dairy and sugar and gluten and all of these things, for her it was, oh my gosh, I can't even get out of bed because I don't know what to have for breakfast. And for me, I got excited because it's like, all right, finally I have the tools I need to create a different life that's going to make me feel better. So my focus is always what you can have, and what you can have on this type of diet is what Michael Pollan said makes it really simple. Eat food, not too much, mostly plants. So you're really just trying to go for plant-based living, but that doesn't mean cut out protein or cut out meat or cutting out all those good fats. Like, you still want to have a lot of those, but you want to have quality and not too much. For example, my meals for the day is usually an egg and a veggie scramble for breakfast, and then for lunch I'll have usually leftovers from dinner the night before, which is some kind of starch that doesn't have gluten in it. So that could be potatoes or rice, quinoa, all those great grains, and then a great serving of at least a couple different kinds of vegetables. I like to have a lot of color on my plate because each color represents a different nutrient. You want a mixture of cooked and raw, because the raw has the enzymes, but the cooked is easier for your body to digest all the extra nutrients, as well as a little portion of maybe like chicken or beef that's free range. Pretty simple.
Love that. I love the approach of focusing on what you can have. You don't have to get crazy about restrictions. So tell us, how does Silver Sage make that accessible to your clients?
What I've been finding is a lot of people don't have time to cook whole foods because they're busy or have kids and just don't have time or desire to be in the kitchen for as long as it takes to make their dinners. So they're relying on the convenience of a system that's not serving them. So I'm trying to create a system where people can order mostly dinners, because dinner is where they're tired, they've made all their decisions for the day, they just want something easy. They look in the fridge and grab beer and popcorn, or maybe something a little healthier, but something that's just like easy and quick. So my meal delivery system is all paleo foods, and I do also vegan, vegetarian, pescatarian, but it's all whole foods made from scratch in my kitchen. I fill up individual servings and then deliver them to people in my community so they can have fresh whole foods ready to eat in like 5 minutes is my plan.
Awesome. I'm ready for you to start mail delivery. Maybe we can get some drones to deliver over here in Denver, Colorado.
So yeah, I'm in Washington now, so spreading to Oregon and then to Colorado and beyond sounds like a great plan.
Perfect. So tell us a little bit about what the journey has been like to create Silver Sage. What challenges have you faced so far?
It has definitely been a pretty huge journey. And I think when I started, I had done this before when I was going to college. I had a professor that I just cooked for, and I loved it, which gave me the idea of a way to support people in making those daily habit changes. But I was finding that I started out by going to school while I was get a degree in nutrition while I was launching this, and quickly my business took over and I had no time left to study or even think about learning. I still want to go back to school and get all that background information just so that I can keep bringing more and more value to people. But to start out, I wanted something to support myself while I was going through school, and I thought it was going to be pretty simple just to cook for people and then study in between that. But I quickly found that starting a business is a huge endeavor and takes all of your time. Between networking and working in my business as well as working on my business to kind of develop where I was headed and my business plan and work on all the financials and just develop the menus and all of that, it was a lot to take on, and I'm glad that I did it not knowing everything that I had to do because it would be hard to start. But once it started and in motion, that momentum just kind of keeps propelling you forward. So that was a great success, was just actually launching and committing to getting it going. I think one of the hardest parts about being a solo entrepreneur is not having other people with their expertise in areas that I'm really unfamiliar with. I'm good at cooking and I'm great at developing menus for people on restricted diets, but it's hard for me to do the networking and to take care of the financial side and learn about taxes and all of those things. Working by myself all the time, it's really hard to not have somebody to bounce ideas off of. So finding other people that are doing similar things or something completely different but still entrepreneurs, it's really great to connect and talk through some of those issues and find solutions. Inevitably, you're going to have problems in your business, so finding solutions and being able to talk with other people about those is really helpful too.
And then what's been, do you think, the greatest triumph so far?
The greatest triumph is really committing. I've started a couple different businesses before, and whenever I sort of hit a road bump or it's not turning out quite how I envisioned it, I stop and figure out something else to do and go get a job or some other way to support myself. But I've really committed to this because it's something that I believe in, and I've gotten a lot of amazing results from that. And I think probably the biggest one is starting this meal delivery system. I've been networking for about a year, and I've been doing personal chef work where I just go in and cook for a single client and make their menu up depending on what they want. But now what I've done is launch the system that I'm hoping people will adopt and really see health benefits from, not necessarily what they want to eat, but what they're going to eat and will hopefully fall in love with as well because it's different, but it's still great food. The success from that was that I just immediately had a huge pool of people sign up for this, so much so that I already have a waiting list for people getting on this. So it's been a lot of talking with people about what their needs are and how to fit that into my business. And I've really followed my business more than pushing it forward with my own agenda and own expectations, and really letting it be what the community wants versus what I want. And that's been really successful.
Well, congratulations on having a waiting list. That's awesome. And
yeah.
It sounds like there's some valuable lessons for aspiring entrepreneurs in there as well around commitment, really going for your idea through the thick and the thin so that you can learn what you need to be successful, and then also responding to your audience and using that feedback data to improve your service or product. Is there any other advice that you would share for aspiring entrepreneurs?
You know, I think what I didn't do right from the beginning, this is one hard lesson, is I really didn't get a great financial system in place. So it's been messy. I've mixed my business with my personal finances, and it's just created a lot of headache. I think jumping in and just getting started, I would really encourage them to do that and commit to making it work. But as much prep work as you can do envisioning going into this, especially in the areas where you feel like you're weak or, just maybe they aren't your strengths, I guess. So, just weak. Really finding a network of people. I think that was one of my greatest successes as well, was finding a very vibrant, active networking community that I was able to find all the services that I needed help with and be able to trade value with them, whether it was actually just a conversation or something. It really has helped me by having a strong network to help me through those problem areas.
Know thyself and plan for your areas of weakness, rely on your strengths. Absolutely agree. But then also using the strengths of your community to help you make forward momentum.
Beautiful. Yes, exactly what I was trying to say. I love it.
Synthesizing. I also know that before you endeavored upon Silver Sage, that you were living in Port Townsend on Earlywood Farm, your creation, or co-creation, and pretty much living off the land there. Is that right?
Yes, yeah, it was a pretty crazy endeavor.
What was that like? I know that it was a permaculture setup. We'd love to hear about that. Is that factoring into your approach with Silver Sage at all?
Yeah, I think it's been hugely formative in the business that I've taken on. It's still in the same vein of really trying to connect with farmers and promote food security and food quality. And a lot of that has to do with eating local and creating farms that are sustainable. And that word gets so overused that I'd rather just sort of define it, which permaculture is a great way to look at it. So permaculture comes from the two words permanent agriculture, and it's basically creating systems that eventually will be able to manage themselves. So all of the inputs and outputs exist right on the land. So it's usually a mixture of animals and plants, and you just create amazingly vibrant food. I have never tasted carrots as sweet just the flavor in the food that you get from having soil that's well nourished from all of the inputs that you're putting in, which is poop from your animals and recycled nutrients from the plant parts that you don't use, like the leaves and the stalks, and putting all that back into your soil really creates a superior product. And when you're thinking about nutrition from a density of nutrients over calories, the way that you grow your food makes all the difference as well. So it's not just the choices you make as to what foods to eat, but figuring out where those foods are coming from and how they're produced. And if they're one apple these days that you get from a grocery store shipped from New Zealand is the same as maybe like one bite of apple that's grown locally with nutrient-dense soil. The same amount of nutrients is just in such a smaller amount. So you end up eating less but feeling more nourished. And I know some of us just want to eat more, but it's really not as healthy for us. So
yeah, that's fascinating. Yeah. So what was the transition like from living off the earth in a farm setting to now being in a city and working on some of those same food quality and intentional living types of issues?
I definitely missed the community aspect. The farm was full and vibrant of life. Now I'm living in a home with just my partner and my dog, and it's a lot simpler. Each of them have their different stresses. Now it's a bit more of an effort to go out and connect with my community. And at the same time, when you're living with your community, that can also create tensions and stress if you're having an issue with one of the people, so you don't have that space as much. So it's very different stressors and issues that you're working with, but I'm really excited. I just moved into a new place, and it's got a lot of restoration work that the lot needs. It kind of looks like the back was somebody's old trash heap, or maybe just where they were doing a bunch of construction and left behind all sorts of debris. We're getting an excavator to come in and dig that out, and we're going to refill it with soil and get a garden started. I'm excited to bring some vibrancy to the neighborhood that I live in and just get out there and showcase how you can grow a bunch of food in your own backyard while living in a city and support yourself that way as well. And it just feels good to get out there. So it's definitely been a transition and something to get used to. I miss quite a few things, especially my donkeys and a lot of the daily chores that I would have. But it's also nice to be making such a difference in so many people's lives that it was hard to do from a farming standpoint, because when you're on a farm, you're just always busy with your farming chores and don't get to connect with as many people when you're out there. It's different, but different challenges on each end.
And so what's the future of Silver Sage? Where do you see yourself at the end of this year, in 5 years? What's the future dream like?
I've got quite a few things in the works. The meal delivery service is really just the jumping in point where I'm trying to make it easy for people to make changes. And then My goal with making those changes is really to collect stories and start a consulting business and use my meal delivery service to support even more people as they go through those changes and just make it easy for them. I envision bringing on a lot of teams of knowledgeable resources in nutrition and healing. Possibly there will be a healing retreat center focused on whole foods. Some things that I'm definitely going to do is create an online presence that will just help people walk through these programs on their own or with a community of people that I create online. Trying to bring this information really simply to other people and then support them in making those changes. The future of Soul First Aid really is about making huge changes in the health of future generations. I want to help people get healthy now, but really what I'm most passionate about is prenatal and preconception nutrition. So I will be working a lot with young families and families that are just about to get started or younger populations, really trying to help them. I'm sure you've heard about epigenetics, which is basically the ability to change our genes by our environment. And food plays a huge role in that, and it just gives me goosebumps thinking about all of the suffering we could alleviate with diabetes and obesity and heart disease later in life just by giving unborn children the right nutrients. All of those issues become so much less of an issue.
That's really inspiring. Well, I know when I'm ready to start a family, then I'll be calling you up for my meal plans.
Excellent.
And so if any of our listeners wanted to reach out to you with questions about their own lifestyle eating or perhaps any restrictions that they're working with or need, how would they reach you?
They can reach me at silversagepcs.com, so personal chef service, or silversagepcs@gmail.com is my email. So I've got website and email and contact information available on the website too.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. It's been a pleasure having you with us. We look forward to following your journey.
All right. Thank you, Sally.